didn't know where else to go. The knocking was incessant, verging on frantic. Tam cursed, scattering his books and his glasses from the nightstand, as one hand quested in the dark for the tinderbox. A stub of candle clattered to the floor. With a twist of the wrist he grabbed the tinderbox before it fell. A minute of fumbling, accompanied by more thumping, as though whoever was outside was determined to enter with or without his permission, and Tam set a taper to the wick of his candle. Cupping the flame, he strode to his front door, then paused. Opening his door could be a risky prospect at the best of times. In the middle of the night. "Who's there?" he called. The hammering paused. "It's me." Shock held him rigid. That voice belonged in his past. He hadn't spoken to Mal for at least a year, and he wasn't sure spoken accurately described that final conversation. Hurled abuse back and forth was closer to the mark. "Please," Mal shouted through the stout oak. His voice cracked. "I didn't know where else to go." Tam was jolted out of his shock. Mal must truly be desperate to call on him. Nudging his glasses firmly to the bridge of his nose, Tam slid back the bolts and cracked the door open, 1 foot behind it in case he needed to slam it immediately shut. Mal leaned against the jamb, one arm cradled across his chest. His hair was plastered to his skull. Tam hadn't realised it was raining, but the dark night provided a backdrop of incessant drizzle. He peered into the darkness to ensure there wasn't a lynch mob lurking behind Mal. Nothing. He really was alone. Tam stepped aside. "I suppose you'd better come in." "Thanks." Mal's voice was gravelly. Tam wasn't sure whether that was due to the late hour, the damp, or it was just the way Mal spoke now, fitting in with his new friends, perhaps. Mal brushed past. Tam peered outside to double-check no one was lurking, then threw the bolts and turned to regard his unexpected guest. Mal was hovering just behind him, and Tam realised he'd never been in this house before. Plus, everywhere away from the candle was pitch dark, and Mal looked as though he'd damaged himself enough already, without tripping on a stool and adding a broken skull to whatever he was currently nursing. "This way." He led Mal into the parlour, lighting the oil lamp on the table. "Sit down. I'll get you a towel." "And bandage, if you have it," Mal said wryly. "You hurt?" "My arm." Tam brought the lamp closer. He'd thought the damp was just the rain, but when he looked closer he found a dark stain of red around a slit in Mal's sleeve. "Someone went for you with a knife?" Mal's lips twisted. "Kinda looks that way." And he'd trailed that trouble straight to Tam's door. Nowhere else to go, my ass. He just didn't want his big, tough friends knowing he was fallible. "What happened?" Mal sighed and lowered onto the couch. "I got jumped. Barely managed to defend myself." Tam gave a bitter huff. "Did 6 big boys attack you?" Mal scowled. "We're not at school now." "I'm aware of that." Mal gave a smile that made the blood and bruises look worse. "And it was at least 8 big boys." "Sure it was." Tam nearly smiled, then remembered who they were and rolled his eyes instead. "I'll fetch warm water and a bandage." "Thanks." Mal's voice followed him into his tiny kitchen. The fire was out, but the water in the kettle suspended over it was still warm. "I'm sorry about this." Tam froze, then continued his chores, finding a towel and an old sheet he could tear up for bandages. Mal had changed if he was willing to apologise. Although it was bitterly ironic he chose to apologise for something that wasn't his fault, when there were so many other things. Tam blew out a breath. That was all in the past. And he hoped like hell it would stay there. "Let's sort your arm first," he said, as he walked back into the room. Mal had clumsily folded back his sleeve. A deep gash cut across his upper arm, blood oozing from the wound. "Is that the worst of it? It's not broken, is it?" "I hope not," Mal replied, which was neither answer nor use. Tam set down the bowl and held out his hand. "Squeeze my hand." Mal did so, nearly crushing Tam's fingers. "Not broken," he concluded. "I'll put in a couple of stitches, though. It looks pretty deep." "Yeah, feels that way." "Drink this." He handed over a small phial of willow bark tincture. "For the pain," he added, when Mal raised a brow. His lips quirked, realising the distrust still ran both ways. "You came to me," he pointed out. "Does it strike you as likely I'd keep poison on hand, just in case someone who wronged me in the past showed up?" "And trust you," Mal muttered. He didn't sound sure, but he downed the tincture in one. Tam got to work. He cleaned away the blood, although more continued to well, sterilised a needle in the candle's flame, and threaded it with strong cotton. "It's probably still going to hurt. I'm sorry in advance." Mal huffed. "I thought you'd enjoy hurting me. Don't tell me you never dreamed about revenge." Tam bit his lip. It was pointless to argue he'd never wanted revenge. That was far more Mal's aim than his own. Getting revenge on a wounded man hardly counts, he said mildly. Then he pushed the needle through the edge of the wound, and Mal gasped. Tam didn't even flinch, so maybe there was something in the charge of revenge after all. Mal stared determinedly in the other direction, which was a good strategy. Tam set 2 stitches. He estimated he'd need 5. Looks like those needlework lessons came in useful after all. Tam froze as past hurts rose up and slammed him in the face. The urge to stick the needle into the wound and throw Mal out on his ear burned through him. He took a breath. This was a wounded man. He couldn't just walk away. Sorry. Mal's tone was subdued. That was supposed to be funny. I didn't mean... He sighed and broke off. I'm sorry. Tam took a deep breath. Wounded man, he repeated to himself. Apology accepted, he murmured. This is hardly embroidery. Mal huffed. Miss Brenderby wouldn't be impressed. No, took a lot to impress that woman. Mal huffed again. Tam's hands steadied, a tentative connection pulling between them, past connecting with the present. When the 5 stitches were in place, he washed the wound again, then his hands, then wrapped a bandage around the hole. He left Mal inspecting his handiwork to fetch a clean shirt. Might be tight across the shoulders, he said as he handed it over. But yours is filthy. It'll infect the wound if you keep wearing it. Mal looked up. Was that guilt Tam could read in his expression? Maybe he was just saying what he wanted. You can take it with you to wash. I'm not your mother, he added, in case Mal planned to take more advantage than he already had. Mal nodded, struggling out of his shirt and pulling the fresh one on. He shifted uncomfortably. Do you want me to leave? More than anything. As the thought flashed through Tam's mind, he realised with surprise it wasn't true. Their breach had been devastating, and over the past year his memories of Mal had twisted to turn him into some kind of bogeyman, a deadly monster. But he was just a man. Stupid, sometimes vicious, but only a man. It's the middle of the night, he said in the end. You might as well stay until the morning. Moving might reopen the wound and spoil all my hard work. Mal nodded, staring at the floor, hands loosely clasped between his knees. Tam, he sighed. The hairs on the back of Tam's neck prickled. He wasn't sure he wanted to hear what Mal was struggling to say. The thing is, I know I owe you an apology. Tam stood, startling his unwelcome guest. He didn't need his insincerity and pretense at remorse. Look, Mal, I'm not really in the mood for a heart-to-heart. Let's just sleep. We can talk in the morning, eh? Sure. Mal glanced around the room. I'll sleep on the couch. Do you have a blanket I can borrow? Yeah. Tam was glad Mal didn't expect him to give up his bed. Wounded man or not, that would be a step too far. He fetched a blanket and pillow. The privy's out the back, he pointed through the kitchen. Sleep well. I hope your arm doesn't hurt too much. Thanks. Mal dropped the pillow onto the couch, clutching the blanket to his chest. He trailed off again, gaze falling to the floor. Thanks, he finished awkwardly. Tam nodded, just as awkwardly, and left. He shut his bedroom door and debated jamming a chair beneath the handle. If Mal was lulling him before striking out, he'd gone to extraordinary lengths for cover. And besides, it was his right arm that was wounded. He wasn't harmless, but he wasn't much of a threat tonight. In the end, Tam just set the candle and his glasses on the nightstand and slid between the now cold sheets. He'd expected to lie sleepless for hours, pondering Mal's sudden appearance in his life, but the next thing he knew, dawn's light was prying around the curtains. Soft sounds of movement came from the next room. Tam rolled onto his back and glared up at the ceiling. It would be easier if Mal had crept out of the house as soon as he woke. Instead... Tam's ears pricked, but he couldn't be sure exactly what was happening. If Mal was busting up his home, he was being very quiet about it. He sighed. Mal wasn't busting up his home. They might not be friends, but even Mal knew to respect someone who'd patched up your wounds. Tam pushed back the covers, dressed quickly, and stepped out of his room. The pillow and blanket Mal had borrowed were folded, placed neatly on the couch. Tam had to walk through into the kitchen to find the man, who was pouring boiling water from the kettle into a teapot. Mal looked up and smiled. I didn't like to help myself to anything, but I figured it was safe to make a pot of tea. You're right about that. Tam reached into the cupboard and brought down 2 earthenware cups. Mal chuckled. You haven't changed that much, I see. I'd say I haven't changed at all. The air between them did change when he said that, crackling with sudden tension. He watched Mal, jaw set, trying to hold on to his defiance. After a long, turbulent moment, Mal nodded. I guess maybe you haven't. Tam blinked, dumbfounded. Was Mal finally admitting? Mal was busy pouring the tea, as though he hadn't just said something momentous. Tam hid his confusion and set out bread, butter, and his own homemade marmalade. "You should eat. Keep your strength up." Mal set a cup in front of him. "You should drink. I know what you're like in the morning before you get some tea inside you." Tam's lips twitched. He took a seat and drank, eyes closing in contentment at the warm brew. When he opened them, Mal was looking at him with an expression, well, it wasn't hatred, at least. Mal nodded at the cup. "Finish that, and you'll be in a fit state to hold a civil conversation." Tam snorted. "I haven't decided whether I want to be civil to you." Mal smiled. "That's because you haven't finished your tea. Go on, there's plenty in the pot." Tam took another sip. This gentle bickering, it took him back to his childhood, to happier times. His chest ached. Could Mal's accident bridge the gap that had sprung up between them? He pushed down the idea. He wouldn't get his hopes up. It didn't mean anything, except the two of them could be civil to each other for an hour or so. He finished his cup, Mal poured him a second, and he sat back while Mal sliced bread and added a thick layer of both butter and marmalade. It's delicious," he mumbled as he took a bite. Tam waited for a snide remark about his cookery skills, but if it sprang to mind, Mal had the sense to hold it back. "What are your plans?" Tam asked. He gestured to Mal's arm. "Gather your buddies and go seek revenge." Mal's lips twisted unhappily. "That might be difficult." "Why? I thought they were always spoiling for a fight." He couldn't help the bitterness that crept into his tone. "Yeah, maybe too much so," Mal muttered. Tam raised his brows, warmed his hands around the tea, and waited for an explanation. The guys Mal ran with, they called themselves a family, and they were every bit as dysfunctional as family could be. No doubt Mal had found himself backing the wrong clique, only to end up on the fringes, when he liked to be in the middle of everything. "They did this," Mal admitted, gesturing to his bandage. "Ah." He only wished he could be surprised. Tam wasn't sure whether to tell Mal to apologise to whoever he'd pissed off and be welcomed back into the fold, or try again to point out that he was stuck in a loop with the gang and should make a clean break. He wriggled, set the cup down and laced his hands. "Look, Mal, don't." Mal's jaw worked. He glanced up, then away. "Please don't. I know you never ever make a mistake, but some of us aren't so perfect." "Fine." Irritation swept through him. "Sort them out yourself. Just don't knock on my door next time, eh?" Mal sighed, face tipped to the ceiling. "Perhaps I should leave the country. Run away to sea or something." Tam rolled his eyes. There was no need for melodrama. "Look, just give it a few days. I'm sure whatever it is will blow over and you'll be welcomed back." "That's the thing." Mal turned to face him, expression bleak. "I don't want to go back. I can't." "And I'm supposed to be sympathetic?" "Mal, they're no good for you. I see that now." Mal pushed to his feet. Tam tensed. He wasn't afraid, and even if he wasn't such a fool as to show it. "Look," Mal pushed a hand through his hair. I don't need you to give me a lesson on morality." Tam threw up his hands. "As though I'd even try." "You could try to meet me halfway. Did that ever occur to you?" Fury surged through him. Tam stood, glaring at Mal. "I tried to meet you halfway. You remember how that went?" "I bent over backwards trying to get you to understand. But no, your friends' opinions were far more important than anything I had to say." Mal hung his head, and anger drained away, leaving exhaustion behind. "I'm sorry if you're having some kind of crisis, but I think you should leave now." Mal's jaw worked. Adrenaline surged through Tam, tensed for a reaction. Only for Mal to nod as though defeated, as though simple words had downed him, when blows rarely had an impact. "I'm sorry." He walked to the parlour. Tam followed, half wanting to apologise, but mostly wanting to make sure Mal actually left. Scooping his torn shirt from the couch, Mal turned to the door, then turned back. "It was about you, you know." "What was about me?" Mal gestured at his arm. "I couldn't let them keep saying the things they said. I stood up for you." "You finally decided to be a decent human being. Am I supposed to congratulate you?" Mal's shoulders slumped. "I guess not. I thought you should know. And now I do. Thanks. But I don't need you to defend my honour." Mal huffed. "I haven't tried to defend your honour in at least 10 years. He looked up with an expression that swept Tam back to when he was 8, his 2 years older brother in a scrap, and proud of the fact. Mal's expression sobered. "I was defending everyone's right to live the life they choose." "Since when have you cared about that?" Tam's heart pounded hard against his ribs. This couldn't be happening. It was some kind of a trap. Mal glanced at him, then looked away, staring at the door. "Since someone important to me gave me cause to think about the matter." "Took you a year?" He couldn't prevent the bitter tone. "I'm a slow thinker. You're the smart one." Don't think flattery will turn my head. Tam tried to squash the light that flared in him at Mal's change of heart, but he couldn't. Truth to tell, he didn't want to. I'm sorry, Mal said, for being an ass. I wish I'd done better. I should have done better. Your family, Mal added. I should never have forgotten that, even if we didn't see eye to eye. Tam took a deep breath and made his decision. I suppose you'd better stay here while you get yourself together. The locks are sound in case they try again. You don't have to do that, Mal protested, although Tam read the hope sparking in his eyes. No, I don't have to. I want to. Mal scanned his face, then nodded agreement. Thanks, bro. Satisfaction fled warm down his spine. My pleasure, bro, he managed in return. Relief swirled through him, lifting his shoulders. He felt lighter. Finally not alone. He wasn't fool enough to think it would all be plain sailing from here, but at least he didn't need to guard his back against family anymore. Mal wasn't grinning, but his eyes were light. Does this mean we aren't enemies anymore? Tam shrugged. I'm not sure we ever were. Estranged, perhaps. Not any longer. Tam let a smile tug at the corners of his mouth. No, not any longer. That was I Didn't Know Where Else to Go by Katy Haye. Thanks for listening.